Hello and welcome to Plot Twisters.
This is a podcast where we take movies and twist the plot to see if we can make them better, and if not, swingier.
At the moment, we're talking about teen movies from the 90s.
On this episode, That Thing You Do from 1996.
I'm Anders, and I'm not here with these fellows. I got a pig in the competition over in the livestock pavilion, and I am going to win the blue ribbon.
I'm Emma. It is very important that you don't stink today.
That is some motivational stuff right there. It's really important that you don't stink.
It's really important that you don't stink. Today, specifically.
I feel like if someone had given me that pep talk in my youth, I may have turned out a very different person. Why didn't anybody tell me not to? I didn't know. I thought maybe that's just how it's done. Stink it up.
Stink it up. Yeah. I think I could have actually benefited from the opposite. Like, it's okay if you need to just stink today, you know? It's okay to do a bad job today.
Do we, whilst we're in different generations, do we both suffer from classic millennial sort of positive reinforcement throughout our lives, telling us that we are in fact unique, special, gifted, wonderful humans?
Yes. You're amazing. Everything you do is brilliant. You're very gifted and talented. When, in fact, probably what we should be saying to children is just, you know what you are? Completely average.
You're fine.
You're just some guy.
You're just a girl. You're
just a kid. And you're going to do whatever you're going to do. You're just normal.
Hey, kid, you're a D- at best. Live with it. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong, but...
Don't try and be a 10. Try and be like an 8.5.
Yeah. Just go right under the radar, you know?
Yeah.
Be cool enough to get far in life, but stop before you're too cool. And then you're exposed. And then in my mind, I was thinking about how, like, it's too much sunlight and then you'll melt like the flower. Right. Like the...
What?
Ooh, doing that thing you do.
Can I do the segue properly? Here's
Sure.
the segue. Here's the good segue.
All right, here we go. And record.
Yes, what you don't want is to be told that you're amazing and have loads of positive reinforcement that totally builds you up so that you then are wildly successful and burn out. Talking of which, let's talk about That Thing You Do.
You doing that thing you do. I come breaking my heart into million. Let's talk about it. I'm all fired up in a 1960s kind of way.
Yeah.
You know, I can't wait to hear what you thought about That Thing You Do, and also to ask you the question, what do you think that thing that you do is? What's the thing?
I don't think we can talk about it because this is kind of supposed to be a PG kind of podcast.
Oh no! I thought it was just like a dance or some sort of a vocational thing. Yeah. For example, the thing you do is spin wool. You know?
Yeah. Life drawing. I think it's like it's like I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. It's the kind of
it's the answer.
You can apply it. It's open so that people can apply it to their situation. So they hear this song and then they go, yes, I can think of a person who does a thing. Yeah, so I can relate. I can relate.
Out there, riding the horse to the field, that thing you do. Yeah. I get it. This song is about you.
What's that thing that you do?
I fret and overanalyze social situations and, secretly eat a lot of chocolate at night. You know what I mean? Because I'm so naughty. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want a recap of the 1996 classic, That Thing You Do?
That Thing You Do. Yes, please. Tell me about it.
It's a movie about a band from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Erie, Pennsylvania.
Spooky. R.L. Stein is here, dripping from my crypt. It's a movie about a band from the 60s that are a one-hit wonder, and they go from being a band playing at a high school prom or a high school contest to being a global sensation. The Wonders. And
The
then
Oneaters.
that's Onetters. And then they get really successful, and then they break up, and they're a one-hit wonder band. And it was written and directed and also starred Sir Tom Hanks. And had a cast of people that we've seen in other movies from the 90s, and they just sang catchy songs and fought a little bit and rode roller coasters, and then they broke up. But it's all fine because in the end, Faye and Guy get together.
Yeah.
It's just like a fun movie about music in the 60s and how a band can become famous. And also that if in your band you have a total D-bag narcissist as the lead singer, and people who are not very committed to the music and more interested in going on a roller coaster with the military, then you're not going to go very far.
I guess there must be loads of examples of bands that are like this, right? I mean, I'm sure you can probably reel some off, bands that had very immediate overnight success and then burnt out very quickly.
Yeah, there's like tons of them. Do you remember the band that had that song that went, "That's not my name, bum, that's not my name, bum, they call me
The Ting Tings?
The Ting Tings, exactly, right? The Ting Tings went from being two people who were friends in college, university in the UK,
Yeah.
who wrote a couple of songs, put them up on SoundCloud, and then within like a month, they were playing huge concerts. They only had like 4 songs. They had to write songs on the road because they were so famous so fast because they wrote That's Not My Name. And then they wrote 0 other famous songs after that.
I really liked a band when I was younger called One Night Only, and they had a song called Just For Tonight, which goes, just for tonight, just maybe we'll make it.
Ooh,
Seem like you want this. They are really good, and they had loads of other good songs, but yeah, that song really took off, and then none of their other songs did, and it was a bit of a shame that the name was One Night Only, because I think it slightly lent itself to the comparison, which was also fun because I didn't look up anything about this film before I started watching it. So when Tom Hanks goes, "One hit wonders," I was like, oh, because I didn't know.
You burn.
So it was good. Yeah, burn. It was good.
Nah, but you know what? I think there will be people out there. I love thinking about one-hit wonders and bands that were. Oftentimes, I think one-hit wonders actually have quite a big catalog of music. And so fans of them will be a little bit annoyed if you call them a one-hit wonder. And like, I'm sure that there are people out there who are going, "Don't call the Ting Tings a one-hit wonder. They got lots of wonderful tunes. There are many hit one, but it doesn't matter because they only have one famous song, right? People love Blind Melon, if you know that band, right? Who sang all I can say is that my life is pretty plain. I like watching the colors gather. It's not rain. No rain. You know that song, No Rain? It's about how they don't like rain. Right? Or
I can't support that because I love rain.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing about rain?
The sound.
Just the sound of it. You close your eyes and you think about life.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who falls asleep to rain sounds because I love the sound of the rain. I think that it's interesting because it's kind of like there's actually so many factors which come into the success of a song or a band or an album or whatever. People tend to take music success and any kind of success as at face value and think, oh right, that song was super successful, so that means that it was really good, and it was just that people went out and bought it loads, when actually it's like people are influenced by good promotion, good marketing, good management, all of these things. So, you know, it isn't just fate why this weird phenomenon happens of some things being hugely successful. But I think what's interesting about this is that it explores the tensions in the band really well to show why what happened to these guys actually kind of meant they were destined for failure, I would say. You know, it felt like each character had a very convincing arc and a convincing reason why they did end up in the scenario that they were in.
Yeah, good point. I mean, if you think about it, they were... Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Think about it. The very beginning, we got a band that's barely been together at all, and they're already tense because nobody really likes the ballads that Guy is pushing on this group, right?
Yeah.
And then you got the other three in the band don't seem that talented, except, I don't know, I'll give them credit. I think that you know, Steve Zahn's character, I think he's pretty talented. But the other guys weren't that good.
He's kind of a bit of a catalyst in terms of them staying together for quite a long time, actually, isn't he? Because particularly, like, there's a little moment where Guy starts speeding up the tempo of the song, and you see the others sort of like struggling to keep up, which is quite fun, and that sort of suggests that actually they're maybe not that talented musicians.
Exactly.
And it's actually Guy who is the talented musician.
Yeah.
He's the one who goes on to actually have the music career, but it's Lenny who continues to sort of be really cheerful and really positive. Yeah. And then when he gets a convincing reason why he wouldn't want to be part of the band anymore, which is that he falls in love with this random woman, that's when it all kind of falls apart, really. So
yeah, no, you're right. He was the positive force keeping them together. You got the original drummer played by Giovanni Ribisi, right?
Yeah.
Who apparently took a week to learn how to play a relatively simple song. You got Ethan Embry, whose name, by the way, side note, in the movie is the bass player.
Yeah, I noticed that.
He doesn't even have a name, and he doesn't. You know, he figures out the fingering of the bass, but, you know, his whole deal was, I'm going to leave this band no matter what because I want to join the Marines. So he wasn't invested in it. And, you're right. The only reason that, I'm thinking that is because Faye at the end of the movie says, this is all you did this. Yeah. The only reason they got famous was because Guy Patterson decided, I'm going to make the drums go faster on this song. Yeah. Which is a good call, by the way.
I think it's interesting how he's the second drummer that comes in, and then he has this great conversation with Del Paxton, who's this kind of seasoned musician, in which Del presents this idea that, like, the band isn't your everything. You are going to go on to have your own career, and you can go on to have your own career. You've just got to survive this, almost with the knowing, like, sage wisdom of, like, hey, this probably won't work out, and you should have a good game plan outside of this, so that he then is convincing as the talented one, the smart one, who is going to survive this, which I thought was very good.
It's really interesting. I hadn't analyzed my own reasons for liking this movie until like about 5 seconds ago. This is a movie about musicians, quite possibly aimed at musicians. Because this isn't a real band, so it's not a documentary.
No.
They end up failing at the end. Well, I don't know. They break up at the end after a very short amount of time. So it's not like they became the Beatles, right? Like, although actually they fought a lot and they were only together for a little while, but it's not a cautionary tale, but it's not a total success story, and it is about the dynamic between people in bands. I wonder if I like it so much because I was a people in bands.
Is this really only just occurring to you now?
Genuinely, hand on heart, right? Hand on a Bible and a heart at the same time. I promise not to tell a lie. It didn't really occur to me that I like this movie because it's about a band until today.
okay. I mean, I got 20 seconds into the film and I was like, oh, right, well, this is an Anders Brand movie. And then things kept happening and I go, yeah, okay, well, there's obviously another thing. Well, there's obviously another thing, you know?
Hey, sometimes things just happen, right? Sometimes things fit for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
I maybe like this movie because I really like the 60s, not because of the music necessarily, but because I like the decade and the
you
aesthetic.
like music, you like the 60s, you like young boys trying to find their way in the world.
I do
stories,
like
you
those
like
things.
Yes. People go larking about, having a good time in a movie. That's what you like. Yeah. I got you.
I like stories about family-run electronics businesses.
Yep.
That are energy concerned, and also not a joke. It's also set in Pennsylvania, which is where.
Which is where you're from. Yeah. In fact, I think that was the first thing that I noticed, and I was like, right, okay. Yep.
Oh no.
Oh, and there's playing guitars, right? Yep.
Yep.
Musicians, yep. Beatles,
Yep.
okay. Yep.
Man,
I have a similar thing though, which is that I really warm to things which are either films or TV shows about making a film, like they're behind the scenes or like they're set in Hollywood, and I kind of always assume that everyone is the same and everyone else also really loves stuff that is about films or set in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, it's because it just really interests me. So.
Well, okay, so here's my question for you then, Emma, because much like how Jaws is not just about a shark, can you tell me what this movie is about in addition to it being about boys in a band?
I would say if you were looking at it, we need like a name for this style of analysis. It's almost like, I want to call it like triangle theory, right? Like, so
let's call it that.
It's like an upside down triangle. I mean, you can't really have an upside down triangle because it's a triangle, but the point is at the bottom, right? So the long side is at the top, and then it points down.
It's a flat side up triangle.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Triangle theory. And at the top of the triangle, you've got like the full plot. And then as you go down a stage, each time it narrows down. So like, the top of it is like the full story, and then in the middle somewhere it's about a guy who's in a band and this happens and this happens, and then you go down and you go down, and right at the bottom you've got to get it down to like a word, a single word.
Yeah. Filter it down,
right?
Bring it on down to like a roux, like it's like a it's like a hefty gravy. What's
the most prominent single core human emotion or experience that this film was about? And for this one, I would say that word would be identity. It's about what shapes your identity as a young person, who has an influence on that, and how it relates to how you understand yourself.
Right.
Because if you think about it, the kind of the most main character is Guy. He's not like he's not prominently the primary character.
But he's it's about Guy. This movie is mostly about Guy.
Yeah,
in a way.
He's the one who we see most things from his point of view. For him, his journey is he starts as a guy who's really into jazz. He then also has his parents telling him, that he needs to stay with the appliance business.
Right.
And he then joins this band, accidentally. He kind of falls into it. He adds something, he changes it. And then this whole kind of structure of having like management as an artist is interesting, because they will take the reins on the band's identity, saying, oh, you're Shades now, you're the guy who wears shades, that's who you are, everybody loves that. And then they start getting this label of like teen sensations. It's like, oh, that's who you guys are. And someone says like, are you like the Beatles? And there's all these suggestions of identity. But then he finds his own identity again by talking to this jazz musician Dell,
right,
where it becomes clear that actually that's really where his heart lies. And you also see that when they play together. And then he kind of also, there's an element of him, and his sort of slow burn romance with Faye, I think, as well, of she's figuring out who she is. She's kind of become absorbed by Jimmy.
Yeah.
And so, I would say, I'd say it's that, really. It's like, who gets to say who you are,
Yeah, nail on the head. Nail in the head, right? I'm impressed by that. You're right. All the big points in that movie were confronting Guy with this is you. And at the end he goes, no, I'm like a guy who I like jazz, right? I'm going to stay in LA and eventually move back east and be a jazz, guy.
Yeah. And Del hands him the blueprint, doesn't he? He says, this is what you can do. You can be like me. You can be a guy who's in lots of different bands. And he kind of goes, oh yeah, I can do that. That's cool. That's
something that anyone in a band doesn't want to hear.
Yeah.
Hey, that band you're in, it's going to break up.
Yeah.
Focus on the vocation of musician.
Yeah.
Right? Don't put all of your eggs in that one basket, which is, the Oneaters or whatever. If someone had said to the people in Chumbawamba, hey folks, just because Tub Thumpin' is a big hit, you might want to think about other parts of your career because you will not have another hit after that. You know what I mean?
And it's funny because I think that you see instances often with bands where it becomes clear that, it's like the creative differences thing. I feel like this is maybe why bands tend to be formed, particularly bands where it's primarily singers.
Right.
They tend to be formed when they're very young, because at that point in your life, when you're like an older teenager / early 20s, it can be really comforting to have other people to sort of associate yourself with. It can be like, oh, we're all these people. Like there's a stereotype about how groups of female friends all dress the same. And it's like,
is that true?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it. I wouldn't say it is true, but like it's a stereotype that exists.
That's fine. You all match.
But you just feel like you're a part of a group, right? The T-Birds and the Pink Ladies from Greece, right? You have like you have an identity by being part of a group. So maybe when you are young, this idea of like a little group of people who are all have a similar identity is very appealing. But then as you do get older, you maybe start to kind of gravitate back towards your individuality and who you really are, and that's why bands often break up and they go on and have solo careers.
Have you been in a band before?
No, but I have been in lots of creative projects before.
Cool. It's the same. It's a similar.
So, yeah.
It's like a different page, but they're in the same book and they're right next to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know from my own experience being in bands where it's hard to say to someone that you are friends with, that you respect, that you're in a band with, and you play music with, and you spend a lot of time with. It's hard to say to someone, to offer them any feedback about a song, or like, I want to change this, or like when Guy, the bravado that Guy has to be like on stage, I'm increasing the tempo quite a bit of this song.
Yeah.
To a band that he just joined, to someone like Jimmy, that's insane. Like, you can't just turn to somebody and say, hey, this song, we're going to change it a lot.
Yeah.
And you have no choice. So, they got lucky, but I think that's the moment that both meant they were going to become famous, but also the moment where it's like, y'all are not going to last together.
Yeah.
Because you can't just do that to somebody's
that moment is really fascinating, right? Because it's like, you almost know this has brought them their success, but it's also brought them their eventual decline. It's like, you've done something here which is really cool, and it really works and everyone loves it, but you've also done it in a way that has fractured the relationships, and that's only going to get worse and worse. So, yeah, intense.
I wonder if Tom Hanks intended that quite, thick, rich, tapestry of that moment when he wrote that, because I kind of feel like he's a movie guy. Maybe that was his intention.
I think it's really interesting because I mean, you can never really know someone's intention. Unfortunately, I don't think it's feasible for us to get Mr. Hanks on the podcast to ask him. But
We could
one
we could
day.
try.
I think it's. I would like to assume that he potentially wrote a story which then ended up being a light-hearted teen film.
Oh, you think it was darker?
But
deeper?
well, I don't know if it was meant to be, but I feel like you could quite easily make it that. You could repackage the story as a lot darker and grittier. Because this is a really intense experience, and whilst it's very fun, and I think it works really well, things like that moment, things like the fact that Faye has such a terrible experience, it could be a lot sadder and darker, and I just wonder if maybe he was almost like writing something which he thought was going to be a bit grittier, but then had to change it to make it more fun to sell it, or he's just that sort of guy. Like he's the sort of Tom Hanks is like the epitome of like pleasant and poignant.
Yeah, his middle name is Pleasant.
He's lovely, but he can do this tinge of sadness and darkness so well. Like like The Terminal, right? I don't think I've ever cried at a movie, or Castaway. There's just something about his performance as an actor can be so sad and nostalgic and poignant. But also he's lovely, and it's just I don't know. It's the Tom Hanks thing, isn't it?
Well, he apparently wrote this movie while he was this movie came out in 96. This was the height of Tom Hanks, Mania? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hanks mania. People were running around screaming and ripping their, because they loved him so much. But he had just done that little movie, about that guy who
run, Forrest, run.
Ran really fast, and he couldn't go anywhere because people recognized him so much.
Yeah.
That he just decided, I guess I'll just stay home and write a movie.
Yeah.
So he wrote this movie because, he liked music and thought maybe I'll write a movie about a band.
Yeah.
He wrote and directed and started. And I think I don't think that he could write a straight up dark, sad film because he has that twinkle and that magic and that little bit of, niceness.
Yeah.
This is like a very nice version of, do you ever see Almost Famous?
Yeah.
It's like the nicer version of that.
Oh, yes.
But also any other movie ever.
That's a good comparison, actually. I suppose it is really nice to see this story told positively. Maybe that's what I mean. It's a sad thing, but it's nice to see it done like this, and it's nice to see everyone have like a fun ending, because they kind of do, don't they? Like,
sure,
the guys who just sort of like happen to leave the band just through chance are like smiling, and it's kind of fine. So, yeah.
How about their original drummer who doesn't even get to go on this roller coaster ride with them because he breaks his arm just goofing around.
Yeah, and he sat there watching them on TV, and he's fine.
But he's having a fine time. And like if you think about Almost Famous, Penny Lane, her story is pretty rough, and she ends up, overdosing on drugs, and and it's a whole sad thing.
Yeah.
In this movie, Faye is treated like a princess.
Yeah.
The whole time, except for when she realizes, oh, my boyfriend's kind of a drip and I shouldn't date him because he's a bad man.
And also no one will ever be good enough for you to Liv Tyler.
And that's fair. That's actually fair.
Like,
she's wonderful. There's Liv Tyler. Liv Tyler was great in this movie, wasn't she?
Great in every movie she's in.
No, she was just so, I mean, I will say she talked about kissing an awful lot.
Yeah, so there's this, yes, right? No, we need to
Liv
address
Tyler,
this.
We get it. You like to kiss.
Big deal.
So what?
So big deal, Liv Tyler.
Whoa,
Jeez.
kissing, right? What is that about?
There's the moment where she suddenly realizes that her boyfriend is the worst and that she, is gonna,
needs to get out of town.
Needs to, yeah. The line that she delivers to him is the following. I've wasted thousands and thousands of kisses on you, kisses that I thought were special because of your lips and your smile and all your colour and life. I used to think that was the real you when you smiled. But now I know you don't mean any of it. You just save it all for your songs. Shame on me for kissing you with my eyes closed so tight. That is a terrible line.
It's bad.
I'm sorry, Tom. I'm really sorry. I'm a huge fan of your work. You had a great impact on my childhood, a great positive impact on my childhood in the films Toy Story 1, 2, and 3, and 4.
Definitely
That is
4.
a terrible line. It's so cheesy, and it really stood out to me because the whole rest of the film is like fine and great and you don't even think about it, and then she just, shame on me for kissing you with my eyes closed so tight. What does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything at all.
It doesn't feel real because people don't do that. When they're really emotional and they lose it, they don't say, shame on me. She would say,
No.
do you know what? You suck.
You're bad. You're a
bad
man.
guy.
I wasted all this time with you.
Yeah.
And I realized you don't love me. What she should have said was, you don't love me.
Yeah.
And you should, because I'm great. I've supported you. And I've followed you around the world, around the country with your band. And I sit in the front row and I sing the lyrics that you wrote for me, but I realize you didn't write them for me. You wrote them for anybody, and you don't actually care about me because you're a bad dude. And spoiler alert, I'm gonna go kiss the drummer because he cares about me and you don't.
That's a good point. That whole speech is about him, isn't it? I used to think that was a real you when you smiled. You just say, "What about you?
What about you?
Hey, what about you, girl? Come on, speak for yourself."
Yeah, but you know what? It was the 1960s, so it was a different time.
It was a different time.
And I don't know if you know this, but feminism hadn't been invented yet. And so you weren't allowed to talk about your feelings or how things impacted you as a lady in the 60s. It was really,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a different time.
Different time.
That's why she didn't say that. What a shame. Sarcasm and jokes laden because you could and you can and you will, and also
tell that to Joan of Arc.
Hey, dear Joan, right? Can you hear me? Just be yourself, okay?
Yeah.
Don't let them tie you up, like physically or hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
And
just do you, girl.
Just do you, right? Just do you. And hey, listen, when nobody can tell who you are when you're wearing a chainmail, right?
Yeah. That's what I experience anyway when I'm out at the club. You haven't asked me if I like the movie.
I know that you loved it, so I don't need to ask you that.
I was gonna do that. I was gonna try and pull the whole. Nah, I thought it was bad, and then you get really upset and say how the whole thing has been a lie and how you didn't trust me anymore. And then I'd say, oh, it was a joke, and you'd say, it's too late for that. You can't take it back. You already hurt my feelings. And then I'd say, oh gosh, well I guess this is the podcast over. And you go, yeah, it's too difficult. We're working with other people. You're too creative and egotistical. And I'd say, yeah, well, you know what?
What?
Just take your podcast and just
We're breaking up the band.
Yeah.
This is it. This is over.
I'm going to have a solo career where I do my own podcast and I'm just going to talk about how movies are sexist. And everyone's going to love
it. You probably should do that. I mean, that would actually be pretty good.
That's not what you're supposed to say.
No, I'm really supportive
of you. Go along with the bit.
We're friends.
Don't be progressively
all right.
supportive.
No, actually, hey, why are you trying to destroy all the movies from my childhood and all the things that you just said, but from me, and I'm saying it because it's bad. Did you like this movie? Yes or no? Don't lie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I really loved the bit, particularly where they, when they first get the song played on the radio.
Yeah,
I was so happy. I was just like jumping up and down on the sofa. It was so It was so good. I love that bit so much. I love it so
fun.
much.
So
And they were just
fun.
like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And then they turn up at the shop and then more of them come in and then the car pulls up and it was just like, it was so good. R is for review. E is for review. V is for view. I is for you. View. You get where I'm going with this. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks. We're in this weird scenario now where it's like when we start coming up with spins, we've got to, not only have we got to avoid films that already exist, we have to avoid other spins that we've already done, other twists that we've already made.
It's good.
That's fun, isn't
It's
it?
really
Self-referential. We're part of the canon now.
Okay, I have an idea, and this is just, I'm riffing it, but one of my favorite things to do is riff, and
I'm like a kind of a unconventional guy. I like to riff and bounce off things. Yeah.
Sometimes I just pack a bag and go to the airport and go, give me a ticket.
Oh yeah, you're so that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you going? And I go, who cares?
Pick a place.
Who cares?
You decide. Spin the wheel.
Spin it. Here's my credit card. No, here's cash. Huh?
And then you and then you open the suit. You get to a hotel on Fiji or whatever, and you open the suitcase, and it's just full of a bunch of like random things, like a banana and a single sock and some sunglasses and a mini fridge. And you're like, well, what am I gonna do with all this?
What am I gonna do with that?
And then you look at the camera and you go, ta-da!
I'm unpredictable, and I like to riff.
Yes.
And I'll eat the banana, and I'll plug in the mini fridge, and I'll have a nice sit down and think about, places that I could go in this new country that I'm visiting.
Yeah.
Here's my riff thought. Okay. What if Guy, who we've decided is sort of the main character, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if he has this vivid dream that he is a famous jazz drummer in LA? Okay.
Ooh.
And in the dream, he's visited by, let's just say the spirit, not the ghost, because he's not dead. The spirit of Del Paxton.
I like when I take the lead on a twist. It's often like, okay, so we're gonna take act 2, scene 3, and we're gonna change this line. And you were like, what if ghosts?
What if spirit whisperers exist?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like some people butter their bread on the top, some people butter it on the bottom. Either way, it's crispy, it's buttery, and it's delicious, right? We're both taking a big old bite out of something. So he's visited by the ghost or spirit of Del Paxton, and Del says,
can't he just be Del Paxton's still alive in this film? Can't he just be visited by Del?
Yeah, but in a dream.
Okay.
It has to be a dream, otherwise hear me out.
Okay, all right.
And
okay,
we can vamp, but it doesn't have to be. In my mind, it's a dream.
I'll leave the fact checking for after I've heard it. Shall I?
Just like in the real movies. So, guy's working at his parents' electronics store. Not happy. Misses playing drums. Doesn't really know what to do. Not sure what happens. He either has a dream, or maybe he falls over and hits his head and thinks that Del Paxton comes to visit him, and Del Paxton says something really cryptic. He goes, "You know what, kid? You're a good drummer. You're never going to be a jazz musician unless you do one thing." Del Paxton? What is it? I'll do anything. Well, you got to get into this group. They're called the Oneaters. And you know how you're going to get in there? You have to take out the drummer. Right? And he's like, what do you mean? And Del's like, you know what I mean, kid. And then he just walks away smoking a cigarette, and then Guy wakes up.
So much like Clueless is a modern adaptation of Emma,
right,
and 10 Things I Hate About You is a modern adaptation of The Taming of the Shrew. What you're saying is that we changed That Thing You Do into a modern adaptation of Macbeth.
Wait. The Scottish one? The one you're not supposed to say?
The Scottish play, yeah.
All right, okay, yeah. I know that I'm aware of, is that the one where the uncle becomes the dad, and then they dig up the bones, and he says, "Yorick, I remember you"?
That's Hamlet.
Then I don't know Macbeth super well. What happens?
What
in
happens
Macbeth?
in Macbeth? Well, let me tell you.
Does one guy have to kill another guy?
Yes.
All right, yeah.
There's
That's
a
what's gonna
king.
happen.
There's a king. His name's Duncan, King of
Right.
Scotland. Right. Macbeth is, just like an important guy.
Yeah.
He stumbles across some witches. 3 witches.
Toil
They
and
say,
trouble.
yep, toil and trouble,
Double
bubble,
bubble.
yep. They say to him, "Hey Macbeth,
Hey, bud.
guess what?
Yeah.
You're gonna become the king."
Big news.
Macbeth
You're
is
gonna
like,
be the king.
"What?" He goes to his wife, Lady Macbeth, and she's like, "This is great news.
This is amazing
This
news.
is amazing. You're gonna be the king.
That
Should
rules.
we kind of, what did the witches say about this?" And the witches and Macbeth's like, "Yeah, the witches weren't so specific about how this is gonna pan out." And she's like,
Right.
Lady Macbeth's like, "Should we just kind of like hurry this along a little bit by kind of taking it into our own hands and just maybe just killing the king ourselves?
It makes sense. It
You're
just makes sense.
destined for greatness, so let's just help Destiny along a tad. And
Yeah.
is this,
This is
a knife
exactly
I
what
see
I'm saying.
before me? Yes, it is. And I'm grabbing it and I'm stabbing the king with it. And then, as you can probably imagine, some bad and sad stuff happens after that.
Speaking of bad and sad stuff that happens after that, how exactly is Guy Patterson going to off Chad?
I'm going to say that they should probably already be famous before he does this.
Yeah. That's fine. They are
And it's
famous.
it's kind of all about Eve-esque in the sense that he's
Sure.
maybe like a fan of the band and he's like, "I want to be the drummer for the Wonders."
But because he had a vision that if he becomes the drummer of the Wonders, he will then be
Yeah.
a famous, successful jazz musician eventually. So he has to be in that band.
Yeah.
He doesn't just want to. He must. He has to.
Yeah.
Right.
So how does he kill him? Okay, well, the kids in this band are they're kind of loose cannons, aren't they? And they're fun and they go off and do stuff.
so
and
loose.
They're like going to theme parks and fairground rides and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe they're at a fairground.
Okay.
And
I'm into
he
it.
goes up to one of the machines, and the drummer's goes up to one of the rides. The drummer's on the ride, and you see a shot of his hand. He goes to a dial, and the dial says like gentle, exciting, extreme, and then there's just the final thing
bones.
is just like skull and bones.
Skull and crossbones. Yeah.
And he like slowly turns it up, and then
Yeah.
you see it's like a he gets on a Ferris wheel, and he's on the Ferris wheel on his own. Everyone else has got off, and then it just gets faster and faster and faster and faster, and then like that thing happens to the guy in that happens to the guy in Indiana Jones where like his face melts off.
Oh, okay. Before his face melts, which by the way, that image has both haunted my nightmares and
Me too.
dreams for my whole life
Yes,
and
me
will
too.
continue.
Really scared.
What if I'd love that if that's either the way he dies or one of the ways that he almost dies. But what I was thinking is,
he tries a few.
he tries a few,
Yeah.
and he doesn't die. And what would be amazing is if every time he doesn't die, they're like, "Wow, that was wild," and then they write a song about it, and it becomes another hit song, right? So they've got that thing you do. We all know it, right?
Yes.
And then they write another song called, The Wheel or whatever, and it's like, I almost died on the Ferris wheel.
Your love is like a Ferris wheel. You
So
spin
deadly.
me round and round. Maybe that's what that song is about. You
Yeah.
spin me,
Me
right round.
It's about a record, baby.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
It's about Ferris wheel. It's about a Ferris wheel. Come on.
But that's the thing. Every time he has a murder attempt and it fails, the Wonders become more successful because they write another song about the thing that almost killed one of them. And he has to keep escalating it. But every time he makes it bigger and fails,
Yeah, it's kind of like Wile E. Coyote, isn't
Exactly. That's exactly right. And it's so nuts. One time they're in the studio
it?
and they're
Yeah.
recording a new record, and Guy goes in there, he sneaks in, and he puts TNT in all of the amps and definitely in the drums. And so they're like recording this song, and they go, "Okay, the Wonders, you go ahead, take one." And Chad counts it off on the drums, but then right before he hits the snare, which is ultimately going to blow them all up,
Yeah.
maybe the record producer comes by and goes, "Hey guys, maybe you should take 5 before you hit this, record this. We just want to talk about the new record. You guys are so famous." And then they leave the studio, and Lenny goes, "Oh, and why am I carrying my bass around?" And he throws it back, and the whole studio explodes.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing, you know?
So we've kind of gone from teen, like, comedy film to Shakespearean tragedy to Inspector Clouseau.
But but the through line is, you know, it's about identity,
Yes.
right?
And Guy trying to take someone
Yeah.
else's identity by killing them.
Much like in Macbeth. And
Yeah.
I'd love it if ultimately, I mean, okay, does he do it? Does Macbeth end up doing it? Does he do it? Does he kill the...
Hey, no spoilers for that play that's been
That
around
plays
for
from like
500
a million years ago.
years.
No one will know. I've never... No, I assume he does it, right? But he
Yeah.
probably feels bad about it in the end.
If you don't want to know the outcome of the play Macbeth, skip ahead 30 seconds.
Skip ahead.
Yes, he does. And then he also meets
Dies?
an unfortunate end. Yeah.
Is it like a murder-suicide thing?
Could you read the play, man?
I don't read plays. That's why I have you. You tell me plays.
Ugh. Yeah, well, it's a tragedy. Everybody always dies at the end of a tragedy. That's the whole thing.
So maybe what happens is, in the end, it is a tragic scene where Guy stabs Chad with a drumstick. And Chad stabs Chad, and Chad stabs Guy.
Chad
right?
stabs.
With a drumstick. It's like a double drumstick murder thing.
Yeah.
And then they both die. And then the irony is the Wonders decide in memory of Chad that they're going to change their genre and they become a jazz trio.
Ooh.
Right? And double side note, that thing you do with a B-side of Murder Roller Coaster goes triple platinum. Because everyone's really excited. You know, everyone's looking into when a musician dies and everybody buys their records, right?
Yeah. Ooh,
It's the same thing happens to the
Wow.
Wonders.
This is dark.
Is it too dark?
Ah, hey, no, why not?
Do you want to... Hang on. Just for fun, should we rewind and we'll do an alternate fun ending? Okay, right? What's the fun ending?
It's like a slapstick comedy, and he's trying to... It's like, like Naked Gun genre. He's trying to thwart this band, but it keeps failing. The band gets really successful, and then he, slips on a banana skin and falls through a drum, and his head, goes, through the drum, and then he stands up and his head is a drum, and he's, stumbling around on TV, and it's really embarrassing.
Do they then ask him to be in the band also, and then they just have 2 drummers?
Yeah. Oh, no,
Right?
they're like, well, we need a percussionist because we're going to do a samba album.
Yeah, and he goes,
Okay.
cool, man.
You
Cool.
can do the little...
Exactly. I think, do you know what? Both are good endings
Yeah.
to a very
Choose
different...
your own adventure.
And we film both, and when you're watching it, it literally pauses and says, which ending would you like?
Yeah.
And you have to decide.
It's a Bandersnatch situation. This is an interactive.
Isn't that what...
Are you okay? Do you want a happy one or a sad one today?
Hey, not for nothing, but the whole dynamic of life these days, maybe films should have a choose what path happens here.
Are
right?
you okay if the dog dies in this one, or is it going to wreck your week? You
Yeah.
know?
Later in this film, someone hugs a stranger. Are you fine to see hugging? Or would you like something that just involves the main character alone?
Yeah. Do you want them in a room or...
Or in
with other
lots of
people.
different places.
Yeah.
Would you prefer if
What
we
do you
just
need?
played that scene when they really play that thing you do well on
Yeah.
stage in front of a lot of people on repeat for the next 2 hours?
Yeah. They play it on the radio, and then it's just a 24-hour long shot of the next 24 hours, and they go and they have a party, and they, go to get a pizza, and it's just fun. It's just nice. Is that what you need? Whatever you need, it's fine. We got it. Here in this new video streaming service that we're launching today called Look After Yourself.
Be kind.
Be kind. Rewind.
Right? I mean, I also would love it if there was another button, at least in this movie, where instead of watching the movie you're watching, you could in fact just watch that movie that the band was in playing the Shrimp Shack Shooters, and you could just press a button and instantly instead you're watching Weekend at Party Pier. That would be way better.
Hey, can I just say, that's actually a really cool idea that you could film like 3 films that all happen at the same time and cross over, and then you could choose which one.
Has that not been done yet? Why do people not do things that we
cool
have good
idea.
ideas about?
Like a trilogy, but they all happen concurrent. Oh my god, this is amazing.
Okay, here's the thing. First of all, patent pending. Okay, this is our idea. What you need to do is write it down on a piece of paper and then mail it to yourself or to me with the timestamp. That way we got this. This is ours. It. But I think that why not? Why can't a movie have separate, concurrent plots that you can decide? Man, we're gonna be so rich.
We're gonna be so rich.
We're gonna be so rich. It's stupid. Are you gonna buy a yacht or 2 yachts? I'm gonna buy 2 yachts. So we have 2.
Yeah. I'll just pay you to buy a yacht for me, and then I'll just just leave it at the dock and sit on it and drink beers.
It sounds magnificent. And hey, Hollywood, if you're listening and you're interested in collaborating with us, drop into our DMs. And if you're listening and thinking you're going to steal this idea, oh no, you won't, because we've got it patented. And it's our idea, and it's called Multiple Movies Concurrent, Choose Your Own Adventure, that thing you do story, where you can be whatever you want to be, and you can be watching whatever you want to be watching.
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm going to start writing the script for that thing you do.
That thing you want.
That thing you want.
What do you want? What do you want to see?
And
when you're scrolling through Netflix and you're trying to find a thing to watch, instead of that, you just turn on your TV, and then there's a chat bot there, and they go, "Hi, what do you need today? What do you want?" And you type it in, and you say, "I need warm fuzzies and reassurance, and everything needs to be okay."
Can you also, and I also need every 20 minutes, I need 1 minute of just a scene of 15 kittens sort of piled on each other.
And then there's a sign that says, "Hey, take a short break. Look at your phone. It's fine. Don't worry." And then you look at your phone for a bit, and then after about 5 minutes, it like flashes up and it goes, "Okay, the movie's going to come back again.
Time for movie again. Time for movie again.
Put your phone down."
Whoa. Okay, before we really workshop this idea into a pitch that we can market to chief executives of NBC, chief executives of Movie Co, should we rate the movie that we watched?
Okay.
I would like to know on a scale of 1 to 5 bowls of homemade camper van stew. How many bowls of stew would you give That Thing You Do?
I am going to do That Thing I Do and rate this film with, I'm going to give it 3. I'm going to give it 3 bowls of stew. Yeah. Thought it was great.
Nice.
Thought it was good. It was fun.
Yeah.
I liked it. How about you?
I'm going to give it 4. I liked it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I love the music. I love the movie. And, it's about bands, which apparently I like movies about music.
Yeah.
4 stews. Piping hot.
Ba-dum-tsh.
Hey, well, Emma, I think it's time to wrap it up because we have now done that thing we do, which is talk about a movie from the 90s.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening to this episode of Plot Twisters.
Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
It's a Gregorian chant.
Doing that thing you
do.